Hey everybody, welcome to another quick video of Opie's Musings. Um, Wanted to take a moment and address something I saw today. Excuse me, it's kind of I'm still in wake up mode. All right. I wanted to address the Jedi Way in just a simple term. Recently, I saw something where someone took words that I had said and completely took them out of context. They didn't seek clarification on it, and they took it and then publicly took those words and just twisted them completely around. So I want to kind of address that. Actually, the Jedi Way is very diverse, but it has a core, right? Any path you really look at, yoga, a specific martial arts, specific philosophy or religion, any kind of lifestyle path that one chooses to follow kind of has its own little path, right? Things that you do, which exemplify the path, and things that you don't do, which kind of show you're kind of moving off of the path. And it's this loose structure, or really tight structure, depending on what you follow, that defines the path for what it is. You don't do push-ups and call it yoga, right? So someone recently asked me my opinion on kind of alter or making a new Jedi site in regards to the various Jedi codes which exist in our community and within the Star Wars universe, both fandom wise, fan fiction, and role playing wise, or things that are kind of considered canon. And I gave him my honest opinion. I am not a fan of titles like Gray Jedi. I really view them as unnecessary. And I made this very clear. I was very blunt with what I said, and they took that to mean that there's only one way to be a Jedi, and that's correct, and it's not correct. Gray Jedi is an unnecessary title because the Jedi path is so open, right? There are a plethora of ways to fulfill the role of Jedi within your life, within society, within the world. And that's clearly seen in the diversity of the Jedi community. And so that's what the thing I want to touch on. The Jedi path is it has a core, but that core is very flexible and it's very open. And so needless segregation within the path is simply unnecessary. It simply disrespects the path that does exist, and the many people who have done it for years, and the new people that come in, and that they're not following a cookie cutter format, right? They're going through, they get the same materials and they get the same lessons, but that doesn't mean they get the same experiences. And their life experiences and the knowledge that they have beforehand, or that you have beforehand, is going to play a part in that, and it's gonna kind of shape how you see and interpret Jedi information. So while there is the Jedi Way, and it's the Jedi Way or the highway, a lot of people like to interpret that, and it was claimed by this individual that it's my way or the highway. I find that very flattering to think that I could have built something such as the Jedi Path and held to it, and held other people, to it, that it's my way or the highway. It's a flattering notion, but really, as no surprise, the Jedi Path is much bigger than any one individual, and certainly it's my way or the highway for me. I have my own way of living the Jedi path and interpreting the core materials, and I hold myself to that. And it's a very high standard that I do not always meet. and certainly no one else meets. But I don't hold other people to my standards. That would be incorrect. But what I do hold people to is kind of the core of the Jedi. And again, that's loose. If you look at the diversity of our community, plenty of different Jedi out there, plenty of different focuses, and plenty of ways to meet the standards or the requirements of the path. So my way or the highway doesn't really quite apply. But it was interesting to hear and see this kind of misunderstanding that the Jedi path being as open as it is. And if one wants to call it dogma, right, that there's dogma to the path, that's fine. Again, though, you don't fix a car and call yourself a cook or a chef, right? I don't know if that's dogmatic. I don't know if it's dogma to say this is what we do, and if you don't do that, you're not that thing. It applies to everything. You don't do biology and call yourself a mathematician. It's just kind of how labels work. They do have a basic standard definition of what's expected of them. And if one is not following that, then they're not. Now, another point this person brought up that I found interesting was the issue of the title Jedi, right? So the Jedi way is pretty open, but everybody starts out, and as I said, everybody has their own kind of like view, and their own experiences will happen over time on the path. As you are living and training and studying to be a Jedi, your view is going to change, your experiences are going to change, your opinions are going to change with relation to the Jedi, right? I don't think I've ever met a Jedi who had the same view of the Jedi Code when they first started to 5 years later, to 2 years later, to 5 years later, to 10 years, 20 years. Like there's just, that's just not how it works, right? The Jedi path is certainly, as I like to say, it's world betterment through self-betterment, right? But you improve yourself. You find the best version of yourself. That's one of the benefits of the Jedi path, right? It's certainly not the only one out there, but it is definitely one of the benefits. And so you grow, you learn, you adapt, you kind of expand your view. And as such, your original views when you first started aren't going to be the same. Now, I would like to encourage people, or I do encourage people, to adopt the Jedi name. If they come to the path and they're like, oh, well, I'm not a Jedi yet. It's like, well, do you accept the Jedi path? Are you trying to be a Jedi? Yes. Okay. So day one, second one, as soon as you make that decision, you are a Jedi. And the entirety of the path is going to be now held to you. And that can be a very scary thing. That's a very scary thing. So you're like, I don't want to call myself a Jedi because I know I can't live up to that. Well, that's incorrect, right? You are a mechanic when you are in mechanic school. You're just not there yet. You're not at there's levels, right? You're a mechanic student, right? And so it's the same way. You're a Jedi learner, okay? And yeah, you're not a knight, which is another expectation, and it's more things are going to be held to you. And certainly I hold master to be that. What most people say, oh, I'm not a Jedi because I'm not there yet. Usually what they're talking about is being a Jedi master. And yeah, completely understandable to not grab that title from day one. But being a Jedi is a choice, and it is a path. And if you are seeking to walk it, then you're a Jedi. Are you going to fail? Absolutely. Are you going to make mistakes? Absolutely. Are you going to make wrong choices? Sure. That's part of the learning experience. We all do it. And it doesn't matter how long you've been doing it. You still will trip up sometimes. The Jedi path or the Jedi way has a very lofty ideals, and it's not easy it's very simple, right? Jedi path is simple and it's not complex, but it's not always easy. Life and the Jedi way aren't always compatible in that sense that it's just automatic peace and serenity. Sometimes you got to work for that, and so yeah, you're gonna fail. The thing is when someone's a Jedi Knight, that tripping and that stumbling and that falling flat on your face is minimized, and you've learned a lot, and so you've minimized those things. Same with Jedi Master, right? That's just more you've minimized the falling flat on your face portion. You've narrowed down when you've made your mistakes on the Jedi path, but it doesn't take away from being a Jedi. Yeah, you're gonna make mistakes. It's gonna happen. It's heat of the moment. Something, and you make the decision. You're like, as soon as you make it, you're like, that was not a Jedi thing to do. That was I messed up. It's gonna happen, and that's okay. It doesn't take away from you being a Jedi. It just means you're still in the process of learning and growing as a Jedi. It's why we do hold previous experience in things like martial arts or yoga or Buddhism or things not as requirements for Jedi, right? That doesn't qualify you to automatically, if you've been teaching martial arts for 20 years, you don't get to automatically become and be a Jedi Knight and a teacher because you haven't been living as a Jedi, right? Those mistakes as a Jedi are integral to helping others reach that point, and facing tough decisions or facing tough situations as a Jedi is kind of the whole purpose of a Jedi mentor, that they can help another person kind of work through the issues of life with the Jedi flavor, rather, and that's gonna be different than the Taoist flavor, and that's going to be different than maybe a martial artist's outlook or how they would recommend a situation be handled. So that's what we're talking about, and that's what we look at when we say, hey, your previous experience is great, but it doesn't qualify you to be a teacher of a Jedi. And it's the same thing. Look, we want you to start out in the Jedi path as a Jedi. No bones about it. And over time, you'll develop an understanding how open the Jedi path is. There's a much stricter structure when you start out. It's much more enclosed, and that's for a reason. We want you to start out with a very core understanding and very small things, and then to grow beyond that and to really get into those and see the different variations of those things. When we say physical fitness is a part of the Jedi path, no bones about it. That can seem intimidating, that can seem very rigid, but when you start digging into it, you can start seeing the plethora of ways one can accomplish that goal without it being as limiting as some people assume right off the bat. It is assumptions that are, I would say, are the enemy of new Jedi. Well, some veteran Jedi are fall prey to assumptions every once in a while. So assumptions are kind of like the enemy of the Jedi path, right? They don't really fall into that. There is no ignorance, there is knowledge line, right? You're kind of working off limited knowledge and not really seeking out further information. And that was the problem I really had when this person was talking about things I said and completely twisting them. There was a lot of assumptions going on there, not just about what I said, but about the Jedi path. And I think it really made me sad. I love the Jedi path. It's a great path, and I've seen it help so many people and so many things. And as such, I do have a very deep, caring passion for it. And I am very strict when it comes to things like gray Jedi that completely miss the point, right? It sidetracks a student for years, and I've seen that. I've been a gray Jedi student. I've been a shadow Jedi student. I've been a Force Jedi student. I've been well, I want to say Guardian Jedi student, but people would assume I mean Jedi Guardian, but that's not what it was. It was, never mind. That's a whole nother history class. We'll do that sometime. I don't know. Maybe not. Whatever. Point being is that it sidetracks more than anything. Jedi, if that's why you came here, just because you're a Star Wars fan and you're like, dude, I want to be a Jedi. I want to wear the robes. I want to be I want to be my own hero. That's fine. That's great. That's wonderful. To grab that Jedi name, use that as inspiration. Be a Jedi. You're going to fail at times. You are. Oh well. Oh well. The only true failure, right, is when you actually give up and walk away. When you throw away the title. Then yeah, you're walking a different path. Walk the path you want to walk. And if that's Jedi, then embrace it, and understand that while you're given, if you're first starting out, you're going to be given this core and these very specific things to follow. And over time, though, your understanding of each one of those things will evolve and will grow and you'll see how open the Jedi path is. And it's a tough thing to try to tell people. I'm not really used to it. I'm really not used to being the experienced one. I'm used to being the student, right? Like for however long I've been in the Jedi path, wherever you want to start that. If you want to start it at 1995, because that's where I found it and was like, oh, cool, there's a Jedi community. Or 1999, when I actually started being like, you know what, I'm done just reading and studying and trying to live this. I need to get involved. I need to talk. Any way you want to slice that. Since then, I've always been a student and have always been putting myself. Anytime I found a new Jedi Academy, I've joined it and decided to learn. So I'm not used to this position of kind of being the experienced one. And it wasn't too long ago that someone sent me an email, someone who knew me from back then. Like we both were, kind of, I want to say grew up in the Jedi path together. He was a giant in my time though, right? He was creating sites, when I was just barely deciding that, hey, maybe I'll start talking more. Maybe I'll start being a bit more vocal. He was already creating Jedi websites. But he sent me an email being like, all those fights you had about, segregation and gray Jedi and things like that. You were right. I see now that you were right. And it's not about being, and I had to correct him too. It's not about being right. What it is it's just something that evolves over time. Right? You see that, okay, the Jedi way is this, when you start out, it's this. And then you see that it's here. And then as you grow, you start seeing this big community and huge diversity and how that allows for so many different types of Jedi. That if we started going to some sort of rainbow plaid Jedi title, system, it would never end. It would never end. And that's always been my point, and that's always what I've said. So to see that twisted into it's my way or the highway kind of bothered me a bit, because it misunderstands the Jedi way. And that's a sad thing to me. When people are like, Jedi is this, so I'm not a Jedi. And it's like, well, if Jedi is what you want to follow it, man, embrace it. But understand that it's an evolving path, and understand that where you start out now, you can call yourself a Jedi, but yeah, you're a Jedi learner, absolutely, and you're gonna go through a learning process, and that's fine, and that's okay. And you'll start seeing the the simple core that is the Jedi way. It's not my way. It's not my core. I did not create it, right? But you'll see this core of the Jedi, and then you'll see how that core can be lived in the many different ways. And that is the beauty of the Jedi path.